So good morning. Welcome to this Muthai River Walk. To give you just a background about this walk started around more than 3 years back as a part of Muthai River Festival, which was also first of its kind conceived in 2016. And the whole purpose of this festival as well as this river walk is to bring people and create a connect which is lost these days between the rivers and the human societies residing on the banks of it, especially in urban scenarios. So Jeevit Nadi is the organization. We work on revival of rivers through public participation. So it covers so many aspects where we try to sensitize people about how we are also affecting the river ecosystem, how we are getting benefited, as well as what are our impacts on the river ecosystem, and what we should do at individual level as a society and also as a government to revive this situation, bring the earlier and restore the earlier nature of the river in clean, beautiful form for the future generations. So, as a beginning of this whole exercise, what we understood was there is a great disconnect between the people and the rivers flowing through the cities. Because in cities, we don't meet rivers, we meet rivers through our taps. And people are not really aware that where the water is coming from. What are the threats to the water sources, resources, and what are its implications for future generations. So, unlike foreign countries where the walk is conducted especially to appreciate the beauty of the surrounding of the river ecosystem, uh, this walk is slightly different. This walk is to make people aware of the state of affairs of the rivers today, what we can do about it, what the government is supposed to do, what are the current happenings around the revival efforts, as well as to understand slightly more about this particular river, which is called Mutha River, uh, where we are starting this walk. We have purposefully named this walk as Muthai River Walk and not Mutha River Walk because this is a combination of two words, Mutha and I. I is mother in Marathi language. So, unless people start looking once again to the rivers as the mother of civilizations, this cultural change will not happen. First, it should start from the thinking, then it will manifest into the real actions. Because even if it is traditionally the rivers are looked upon as the mother in the local culture, but somewhere this has become very diluted. This has just remained as old stories and things like that. So we are trying to recreate that in the minds of people through such exercises. Uh, so coming back to this particular walk, we will be having around 1.5 hours of this walk, where around 1.5 kilometers to 2 kilometers walk is there. We'll stop at 6 to 7 different locations to understand the characteristics around the river, ecological aspects, some historical aspects, and also how the human society at different times interacted with the river ecosystem and how the river has been supporting even today this whole huge population. Uh, so, as we are standing on the banks of this Mutha River, uh, first, it's like we are trying to create a story of Mutha River, so that once the story is understood, we know what is our position into that story. Uh, Mutha River originates in Sahyadri mountain ranges. It's part of Western Ghats. Uh, so, if any of you have traveled towards Lavasa city and these areas, so there is one first dam on Muthai river called Temgar Dam, and just before Lavasa, you have to climb a hill slope where you can see this Temgar Dam, and on the backwaters of Temgar Dam, there is a source village called Vegre. The name of the village is Vegre, and that is supposed to be the source of Muthai river. Uh, Typically, from there it flows towards the city. This is on the western side of Pune city. So from there it flows further. There are two more dams, Panshet and Varasgaon Dam. So they are actually not on Muthai River, but they are on two tributaries of Muthai River, which are called Ambi and Moshi River. And the flow then uh, goes together after the dams. And the last terminal dam before Pune city is Khadakwasla Dam. So from Khadakwasla Dam, the river flows through the city, parallel to, you can see it on Sihagat Road, parallel. Then from where we are looking at it is this Bal Gandharva temple, Lakdi Pool area. From here it goes, this bigger bridge is called Shivaji Bridge. After this bridge, you have this Sangam Bridge near COEP. So, Sangam Bridge is called because there is a confluence of Mula and Muthai rivers there. And after that, Mula Muthai river flow together as Mula Muthai river, and that goes out of the city. So, if we just start a mapping of this river, see, this is what is this red dot is Vegre village. And you can see these two big reservoirs over here. This is Panshet and Varasgaon Dam. And from here, this river further flows, mixes over here. And this is Mula river basin. And here you can see the confluence. So we are somewhere here. And this further flows, it actually meets Bhima river near Ranjangaon Sandas. And this Mula Muthai river are one of the major tributaries of Bhima river basin. So it is called as Upper Bhima river basin. And the Bhima river further flows, meets Krishna river in Karnataka, and Krishna river further flows eastwards and meets Bay of Bengal from Andhra Pradesh, Machilipatnam. So, if we start looking at this whole connectedness, we can see that whatever we are doing here goes right across India, and the impacts can be felt 2500 kilometers somewhere downstream also. So this is not only understanding geography, but this is understanding our responsibility also. Now this is about where the river is, how, just putting it into perspective of what is connected to what and all these things. So when we start talking about the history part of it, so can we guess how old could be this city? Just wild guesses.
Must be a couple of thousand years.
Okay. Anything more? Okay, so let us just park this question.
Okay.
We'll revisit this. I'll tell you a story about this river. which is there actually documented in a mythological literature called Puranas. The story goes like it's a very typical mythological story. There is a king called whose name is Gajanak, who is residing on the mountains of Bhimashankar, and who starts a penance to acquire some superpowers. And this Lord of Gods, Indra, he always gets threatened because when anybody starts a penance. And the plot is always very typical when he sends two apsaras to disturb his penance. And only difference here is the Gajanak king, he knows it that this is a trap, and he becomes furious. So he gives a curse to these two apsaras that you will not be able to go back to heavens. You will keep on flowing on the earth as rivers. So it is called that these Mula and Mutha rivers are originally apsaras who have taken the form of rivers. So there is always a negotiation after that, and a corrective action and all these things. So what he recommends is corrective action is when you meet Bhima river, you will get mukti and you will go to heavens back. So these are always symbolic stories. One can understand that even geographically it has a correctness, as we could see, that these two rivers actually meet Bhima river. But rather than having mukti, probably they curse Bhima river also nowadays because of the heavy pollution. So these are very old scriptures, and one can then try to gauge that in the old scriptures also these rivers names are getting reflected. So coming back to that question again, that if you want to make any correction into that figure,
Adding a few zeros probably.
add 2 zeros. Okay. So you see, we are talking here about geological timescales, where generally we are not habituated to think in those terms, because we start 1,000 years, as you say, 10,000 years and things like that. So if we actually see, just we discussed about where the river originates. So it originates in Sahyadri mountain range. So this Western Ghats and Sahyadri mountain range, the age of that is 60 million years of this mountain range. So formation of river is really, if you see, it's a natural miracle, one can see. The rivers are not formed anywhere anyhow. You need very conducive conditions. You need a mountain range, a heavy rainfall, dense forest to uh, absorb the water during rainy, especially in tropical weather where you have only 4 months of precipitation, and then you have to have those slopes towards the plains and things like that. So this is a very slow process. So something must have happened over there also, and uh, this formation of permanent channels, then permanent flows, tributaries, and watershed development. All these things takes slow process, and Pune's Deccan College, they had done some archaeological surveys on the basin of Mula and Mutha rivers. So what they have concluded from their survey is the minimum age of this river could be put up in the range of around 1 to 1.5 crore years. So around 10 million years. So you know uh, we cannot think of those timelines, really speaking, and the in during this large time frames the river changes its course. The basins change because of the earth movement, uh, and so many things going around in the nature. Um, where we are standing today, this particular river basin, it's stable for around 100,000 plus years. So definitely we are standing at the oldest location of the city, to put it in that frame. Um, so what was there in those days? Probably. So if we start thinking of, obviously, it was pre-human kind of period also. Let us not even think of, which society was there, which kingdoms were there. It was much before that, when even the humans, before humans, what was there. So they had found very interesting fossils on the banks of Muthai river. Uh, so you can see these are the tusks of elephants and some jawbones of an animal called oroch. So this animal is extinct now, but you can see nowadays everybody knows about Indian gaur and bison because of what happened recently. So it is in that family. So it is something much bigger than even the bison. Uh, so, what do these types of animals really indicate? These were found in uh, areas like Burn Garden, then on the upstream side where Panshet and those areas, or Varasgaon area. So, uh, obviously, to support these kinds of animals, which are very big animals and herbivorous animals. Obviously, there must be a very rich forest around. And nowadays, we cannot imagine that some, some elephants are walking along and things like that. But that must be the condition around the river basin during those times. Uh, Human uh, appeared a bit late onto this, but there are no fossils found, but there are some stone tools which are found even today. They are found when they dig for these metro pillars and things like that. uh, One professor, very renowned professor, Dr. Rajguru from Deccan College, he had once called us just in this Sambhaji Park, where they were digging some, uh, doing some construction work, and they could show us literally by picking up those stones that these are the stone tools of early age humans. Obviously, for a common man, it is just a stone, but for an expert, he looks at it very differently, interprets it. Um, One very interesting observation which was made, that, as you know, the human race has evolved from uh, uh, quite a different stages of evolution. So there was a Homo erectus stage, and further it was Homo sapiens, from which we descended. So they had different styles of making stone tools, and both these styles of stone tools are found on the banks of Muthai river. So which is very interesting kind of observation they have made and conclusions. So these are typically around 50,000 years old kind of things. Um, so this river is supporting humans since those ages. uh, we'll just go closer to river, and we'll just try to understand, as we can see that this oroch is extinct, then these elephants are never nowadays found anywhere near Pune city. So there used to be certain birds which were found till last 40-50 years, and which are indicators of the rich biodiversity which was present even just 4 decades back. So we'll just